What's up there, fellow YouTubers? It's Chris again, back with another video. Hey guys, got a cool one for you today, and this one basically is viewer participation. I want to get your thoughts on this. There's been a lot of talk about this Black Knight satellite, and I'm sure a lot of you heard of it. This is not new news. This is old news, but it's intriguing regardless. I mean, when you read everything on this thing, I was just watching another video. It's supposed to be a 2014 latest update, so to speak, and it is rather interesting. I'll give you guys the link to it in the description. Just look at the description, go to the bottom of the description under this video, and you guys will see the link. And I'll post it for you. Pretty neat stuff. When you see this thing, now there's a huge argument whether this thing is real or not. It's a hoax. It's a bunch of crap. And I'll give you a picture right here, which shows the actual Black Knight in the atmosphere. The cool thing about this thing is it's high res. I mean, it's not like all grainy and crappy looking and everything else. But a lot of people argue that it's a thermal blanket. Okay? It's and usually these thermal blankets are like an aluminized mylar or something like that. But let me show you something. This is one of these blankets. Now, of course, it's very small, and I think it's just the outer layer because it's kind of thick. It's supposed to stop any kind of small little objects from hitting whatever this blanket is around. And most of the time, it's satellites and stuff like that. So it's supposed to keep not only the object a little warmer, but it's also any kind of like microbial things hitting the outside of the craft. It's actually got like a cushion and a netting and everything else involved with this thing. So I don't know how thick these things really are per se, but this is the argument. People go, hey, you know what? It's a blanket, you idiots. It has nothing to do with the craft. Okay. I'm willing to go either way, guys. I'm a 50-50 at this point. Okay. So they say that this thing's 13,000 years old, and I'm going, okay. And what's crazy about it is the way they go about this. Now, let me explain. Now, this thing wasn't noticed, I think it was noticed in, like, if you go really far back, they say that Nikola Tesla actually heard the signal. Now, I originally heard it was he was hearing from Mars. In other words, he must have waited till it got towards Mars and he was listening in and heard some signal, and they said it was in multiple languages. Now, I don't know how he could determine that or whatever the case was, but that's interesting in itself. But then they say, well, no, that he noticed this satellite, this Black Knight satellite, years long before there was even the first, was it the Ukraine or Russia put out the Sputnik first satellite. So it was long before any satellites, and he heard signals coming from this thing. So now, as the years go by, we get up to 1973. This guy called Duncan Lunan, he's an astronomer, writer, whatever the heck he is. He deciphers this radio signal. Now, in this video, I actually write down verbatim what this other guy says. He's Skyped on this particular program. But anyway, now this is just part of the message, I guess. But it says, our home is Epsilon Goodies, which is a double star. We live on the sixth planet of 7, counting outwards from the sun, which is the larger of the two suns. Our sixth planet has 1 moon. Our fourth planet has 3 moons. Almost sounds like a riddle. And the first and third planet each have 1 moon. Our probe is orbiting your moon. So now, at one time this thing was orbiting our moon. Now it's orbiting. Now here's what's crazy. It's going on a polar orbit. Which means if you were to look at your planet, our planet Earth, and you've got the North and South Pole, of course, they're, one's at the top, one's at the bottom, or North and South, it's orbiting that way. So it's either coming up from the south, going up to the north, and then orbiting that way, or vice versa. I don't know which one it was, as opposed to our satellites, which go horizontally, and they go around the equatorial region of our planet. So really crazy stuff. And not only that, it's traveling at more than 1.5 times faster than our satellites. So it's crazy. People are like, well, why don't they grab this thing, and how come they haven't shot it down? Well, let's say a hypothetical. This thing is the real deal, and I'm saying a hypothetical here. Think about it. They must have investigated this thing. Even if they were sitting on a radio, like if you go to SETI, where they have a giant satellite dish array, or, Arecibo in Mexico. They got one of the largest radio telescopes there with the dish built into the ground. They're hearing the signals from this thing. Well, of course, it's blasting so fast that God even knows you'd have to be able to track this thing, but whatever. So, they must have tracked this thing and checked it out. People are like, why didn't they shoot it down? Well, let's suppose it is, for a moment, that it is realistic and it is something ancient out in space. How do we know you don't shoot this thing down and it decides to take evasive action and just shoot us down? Or shoot the planet, destroy the planet? Of course, this is dipping into the sci-fi, dipping into it big time, but I'm just throwing around ideas. Or, that it doesn't send a signal and say to destroy the planet. Who the heck knows what this thing is and what its function really is? But it's almost like it's like a like an ancient, map, so to speak. It's like giving us information where this thing is now, or where their planet is, and so on and so forth. The crazy thing about it is they get the 13,000 years from the idea when they look at this Epsilon Goodies or whatever it is. When they look at this solar system, they go, okay, let's see. They have software that can actually see where, like our regular planets, like Mars, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, so on and so forth. They could tell, 25 years what orbit they're going to be in. They could tell if you were to go backwards in time, the software will tell you where it was and, its orbit and so on and so forth. If you go into the outer, outside our solar system and you go into the universe and the galaxies and everything else, you can do the same thing with software. You can tell where it was. Well, they keep going back until 13,000 years, and they go, okay, wait a minute, hold on. This is the way this thing describes these planets and these moons, but it wasn't, the way they describe it wasn't like this unless you go back 13,000 years. So that's where they get the date from this thing, how old it is. Now, again, I don't know. Now, as far as this blanket thing, let's zoom into this, because you look at this, you see 1, 2, but I'm looking at this thing and I'm going, wait a minute. When I look at this, I see this weird round thing right here, and I see this right here, and I see what looks like a bunch of features. Like it has almost like a square feature at the bottom of this thing. So it has height to it. Now, makes sense. Now, let's flip over to the next picture, see what that has. Well, can't tell what this thing is, but it looks like it's flat, and then it has height to it, kind of like this picture, only it's flipped over. People are going, well, it's a blanket because the blanket's flipping around in space. Well, so isn't this. It's not doing a straight, complete orbit, meaning the thing's just staying still in one position and just orbiting. It's actually tumbling slowly, too. So you're going to see different angles of this thing. But I'm saying, wow, what the hell? I mean, that's a possibility. I don't know. So let's go to the next one. Now, this one here, I would say is a blanket. This one here, I would say. Look at 1, 2, 3 flaps. It looks like it's bent in half. You don't see any height to it. Of course, it is a shadow. Look at this. Look at the clouds, and you can see that the sun's way in the back here, and the shadow is being casted here on the opposite side of these clouds, which are in the sky, and these are on the ground. So I'm looking at that, and I'm going, okay. Because if you look closely, you can see what looks like a little strap right here. See it right there? So this, to me, looks like a blanket. There's no doubt in my mind, and I would agree with that. Now, you have to ask yourself this question. Is NASA just throwing these things out? Going, yeah, this is the blanket. Doesn't it look a lot like this craft? I don't know. This one, to me, is the most craziest one out there. This picture here, by far. Now, this is the way this picture comes, which is just like this. When I seen this, I was just like, wow, that is just cool looking. It's ominous, both ominous looking and just really neat. Now, don't get me wrong. Neat and ominous doesn't equate to facts. But when you look at this thing, it doesn't look like no space blanket. It sure in heck doesn't look like any satellite we have, because I can show you right now. We can go back to the old, because I went to the first communications satellites. They're either round, have these weird funky shapes. You go down to here, here's your Sputnik, and that's right there. Very first satellite, I think it was Russia, the Ukraine, that put that out. Okay. These are the first ones. Now, you can check any one of these. Just bounce back a little bit and go military, the first ones, navigational, weather, GPS. Here's the thing you want to understand. Even the military ones, they have a solar array on them. They have antennas of some sort, whether it be omnidirectional or dish. They all have this. The navigational ones, as you can see, well, this one here you can't see. It's not showing because it's not facing this way. Let's do it this way. But you can see where it has some kind of dish, whether it be a flat, well, they call them pans, a flat satellite dish, or the parabolic, which is more concaved, kind of like what you see here on Earth. The more concaved it is more precise to lock in. So Now, you go to the weather ones. Every one of them is either boxy, some kind of thing, and have solar arrays or a dish on them, as you can see on this one right here, right there. And they have other, cameras and all whatever, you can see like it's got different ones because this is a weather satellite. So you get the idea, yeah. So like I said, I went to the first one to try to see if there was, in fact, anything that looks similar to this. I don't see it. No matter where you look on here, I'm just not seeing it. Now, again, it just raises the question, what's up? Because I'm going to go ahead and enhance this a little bit, brighten this up a little bit, and let's see what happens. Okay, let's zoom way in. Now, some of these pictures I've seen were like, wow, these are just brutal. You couldn't see anything. But look at the detail in this thing. I don't know if you guys see this, but look at this. It's kind of like something right here, kind of rounded kind of thing, and it looks like almost like the same thing on this side. Has these weird pieces in it. Has these, I don't know, like little, look at this, almost like a triangle kind of thing. Like it's all one piece. Now, I'm going to black and white it. Get rid of any color, any kind of distortion as far as color-wise. And it just looks like, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to tell. It doesn't conform to every other satellite. Let's just put it that way. So now I'm going to go ahead and enhance this a little bit. So put it dark around here. This way we can bring out whatever's in the middle of this picture. And you could just see it just, I don't know. It doesn't look like a blanket. It doesn't conform to anything we have as far as the older satellites or weather and new satellites. So sharpen it up a little bit. And you can just see the detail in this thing. I mean, it's not super clear, but you can see, I don't know. Now, another thing I did too, this is again back to the normal one. See it right there, just slightly darker to try to bring out anything extra. But what I did was inverted. And the reason why I inverted was not to see this, the actual whatever this anomaly is. I did it to do this, to check the actual picture artifacts, to see if it was put into this photo. And if you look at the artifacts of the picture itself, you can see it hasn't really changed. In other words, this is the real deal. Whatever this thing is floating out in space is there. It wasn't put into the picture. It's absolutely here. So you can see, I mean, other than darkness, it's going to change the actual picture artifacts a little bit. But you can see, usually you can see if NASA put something in a picture, you can usually tell. I mean, it totally will be totally different from these patterns you see here in these artifacts. It would be totally different. But I don't know, guys. You give me your take on it. I just thought that was neat. I've been hearing a lot of people talking about this thing. Even down here, it looks like there's some weird opening to this thing, and has this weird smooth triangular piece on it. It has a couple of shiny pieces. I mean, you guys tell me. What do you think this really is? Do you guys think, no, it's absolute BS? I think they're trying to confuse people. I think they're trying to say, well, I'm just going to show you a picture of the blanket. Doesn't that look just like it? Now, it's a 50-50 thing. If it is truly 13,000 years ago and people are saying, why didn't they shoot it down? Again, if it's not bothering anybody, why mess with it? Maybe they're afraid if they mess with it. How do we know this thing's not going to be like a Trojan horse kind of thing? And I'm not saying a bunch of ships are going to come out of it, but how do we know it's not going to send a signal back to their planet and then they'll all come back and destroy the planet? Or this thing has a way of defending itself. Again, I'm dipping into the sci-fi big time. But how do we know? If it is real. Of course, I'm saying hypothetically here. But I don't know, man. It's just an interesting topic. I think people want to believe this because they just see this thing and they just go, wow, that is just neat looking. And I agree. I totally agree. I think this thing's just wild looking. If it is there, that's just cool. If this whole information is true, of course. But just want to get your take on it. I think it's pretty neat. This, like I said, this is not old. I mean, new news. This is old, But nonetheless, it's still pretty wild looking. This does not look like it's been pasted in. It looks like the real deal. Now, people have said, hey, you know what? There is so much garbage out in space. God knows what this thing is. And they're correct. Again, though, they say, well, it could be like parts of shields, like the sides of like panels of these spacecraft. Again, why wouldn't it be flat? Why wouldn't it be checkered, like, a solar panel piece or whatever, or a dish pot laying on it? Let me see something here. I just want to check something. Okay, so it appears, if we look at it here, well, see, this should be well lit a little bit better because the sun is coming from this direction here. Well, it kind of looks like it's coming. Well, see, you don't see the sun, but it appears to be coming. If we look at the clouds here, it's coming from way over there to the top left. You go down here, as you can see, it's actually darker, which means The sunlight's coming from that direction. So why isn't it all lit up here? If it wasn't true, because if it was truly like this reflective surface, a lot of surface like these blankets have, this should be all lit up then. This should be completely lit up. It should be really shiny on one end and then darker on the other, and I'm not seeing that. Now, a lot of times that's, if you go to these forums, people are arguing that point. Well, the sun's behind it, so yeah, everything's going to look dark on the other side. And they'd be correct. But that's not the case here. The sun's coming from this upper left, and you can see to the, well, if we do, it'd actually be the west if you really thought about it, because I actually rotated this. And I'm going to go ahead and correct that right now. That's actually, I put it at 180. It's actually 180 degrees out. If you were to put it normally, either way you look at it, it's still coming from the right side, coming from this way. And you can see the way these right here, the clouds, the shade doing, it's like coming from like right over here, from somewhere around this area. This should be well lit. And you can see where it's tilted. It's actually got a little bit of light. It's a little brighter than the other side, the other end, I should say. So anyway, guys, I don't want to make this super long. I just want to get your thoughts on this, because this has been swarming around here and, on the internet and everything else. And I would agree that a lot of these pictures, they look bogus, meaning it could very well be. Like I said, to me, that looks like a blanket. Definitely, without a doubt. I would have no argument with that at all. Now, the sun, because this thing's flat right now, and the sun is coming from this, it appears to be coming from here, from the shadows from these clouds. It appears to be coming from over here, somewhere over here, coming down. Well, guess what? The sun's hitting the backside of this. This would look completely dark. I get it. It makes sense to me. You can actually see, like I said, a little strap. This looks like a blanket. These do not. That's the blanket. This does not. Now, again, it's a 50-50 thing, and unless I've seen it myself, I probably wouldn't believe it either. But give me your take on it, guys. Let me know what you think is going on. Is this thing a big-time hoax? Is it, is it some picture's real, the other one's fake because NASA's trying to just say, oh, no, you guys don't get it. So here's the other picture. This is what you're really seeing is this blanket. We all know how much NASA's forthcoming with the truth, so why would they tell the truth here? How do we know? 99% of the time, the truth comes out because of people like us or amateur astronomers. There's a lot of people doing their own astronomy work on the moon, like Crow 777, Dark Sky Watcher 74. I mean, there's just so many people doing these things. It's just crazy. But anyway, guys, give me your take on this thing. Let me know what you guys think. Just kind of curious. Like I said, this is a 50-50 shot. Well, I mean, if you really think about it, it's like an 80-20 shot, meaning 80% being hoax. But God only knows. God only knows what the stuff is. Anyway, guys, I do have a lot of videos coming up. It's, just be patient. Like I said, I've got some cool ones coming up, and we'll get with those shortly, no doubt. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Always appreciate it. Thanks for jumping on board and subbing. Go ahead and share this video and let people know what's going on. Give me some thumbs up, and there you go. All right, guys, we'll see you next pick.